What if the entire world, every country, every continent, every human being, bowed to one crown? No more presidents, parliaments, or prime ministers. Just one sovereign ruler, one throne, one symbol of absolute global unity. It sounds impossible, medieval even. But in an age of collapsing democracies, global crises, and rising calls for unity, the unthinkable becomes inevitable. And once it happens, there's no going back. So how does humanity go from fractured nations to a single monarch ruling over all? Let's rewind history and reimagine the impossible. Welcome to a world where the map has no borders, national anthems are relics of the past, and the term world government isn't a conspiracy, it's reality. In this hypothetical timeline, Earth is no longer a patchwork of sovereign states. It's one realm, and at the top sits a single, hereditary monarch who reigns over every city, every citizen, and every decision that shapes the future of humankind. The global monarchy was born not from conquest, but from desperation. As modern institutions failed to prevent wars, plagues, and environmental collapse, the world turned to a new solution: total unification under a single crown, a symbol of order, a promise of peace, a structure immune to the chaos of partisan politics. But beneath the golden grandeur lies a chilling question. Does peace under one ruler come at the cost of freedom? Does global harmony mean cultural extinction? To understand what this world looks like, we first need to uncover how it came to be. Let's begin with the rise of the world crown. This isn't a fairy tale or a medieval flashback. In this timeline, the world doesn't fall into the hands of a conqueror, it gives itself to the crown. It starts subtly, not with war, but with collapse. By the mid-21st century, the global order begins to fray. First come the climate disasters, unrelenting storms, submerged coastlines, and disappearing farmlands. Then pandemics sweep through, mutating faster than vaccines can catch them. Economies collapse under pressure. Governments fail. Misinformation saturates every screen. What remains of democracy is crippled by division, gridlock, and fear. The people cry out, not for freedom, but for order, stability, something permanent. That's when the idea takes root. Unify the world not through votes or treaties, but through symbolism, ritual, and permanence. A throne, a crown, a monarch who is above nations, above parties, above chaos. It begins as a gesture, a temporary solution. A coalition of fractured nations, desperate for cooperation, form a global emergency council. Initially technocratic, it handles resource allocation, emergency response, and peacekeeping in collapsing regions. But its power grows, and when a global summit is convened to reimagine Earth's political future, a radical idea gains traction. What if the council had a permanent figurehead, not a bureaucrat, not a politician, but a monarch? The logic is psychological. Monarchs evoke tradition, longevity, continuity, stability in times of chaos. Unlike presidents or premiers, they aren't voted in. They don't campaign. They don't polarize. They symbolize, and that's exactly what a collapsing world needs. A living emblem of unity. The council votes, secretly, then publicly. A family is chosen. Perhaps it's a surviving European royal bloodline, famous enough to be respected, yet distant enough to seem neutral. Or perhaps it's a carefully constructed hybrid bloodline, merging royal descent from East, West, and global South into a single symbolic dynasty. The crowning takes place at the reconstructed ruins of the United Nations headquarters, now rechristened as the World Crown Pavilion. At first, the monarch is ceremonial. They oversee rituals, deliver addresses, approve global holidays. But over time, their symbolic power becomes real power. Charters are rewritten, treaties are replaced with edicts, regional parliaments begin swearing loyalty to the crown, not just in name, but in law. Resistance is minimal, not because people love the idea, but because the world is tired. People crave consistency, and the crown, for all its imperial optics, works. It organizes, it governs. It doesn't change every 4 years. It lasts. Even traditionalists adapt. Former presidents and prime ministers become regional regents, noble administrators answerable to the monarch. Old national flags are reduced to local banners, while a single, majestic, global standard flies from every capital. This new monarchy is not content with soft power. It expands into infrastructure, controlling global energy grids, satellite networks, and water systems. The global military is absorbed into the Crown Guard, an elite peacekeeping force bound by absolute loyalty to the throne. Currency is unified. A single digital coin, Crown Credit, becomes the legal tender of the planet. Education systems are aligned. History is rewritten to tell the story of the long path to unification. Young students recite global oaths instead of pledges to fragmented nations. Every citizen of Earth now has the same ruler, the same anthem, the same foundational myth. But beneath the pageantry lies a quiet warning. Once power is centralized, especially under the illusion of peace, it becomes nearly impossible to break. Now that the world is under a single crown, what does daily life look like? Is it peaceful, efficient, or something far more controlled than anyone anticipated? Let's explore the reality of living under the world monarchy. With the rise of the global monarch comes the fall of chaos, or so it seems at first. For the first time in human history, the world stops spinning in different directions. Wars cease, not because peace was negotiated, but because there are no longer sovereign nations to fight each other. Border disputes vanish. Military spending plummets. Trillions in defense budgets are redirected toward planetary-scale megaprojects. Dams, space elevators, fusion reactors, underwater cities. Projects that were once impossible due to political friction now move forward at breathtaking speed. Without international gridlock, global infrastructure becomes astonishingly coordinated. Trains don't stop at borders, they circle continents. Roads span oceans via massive floating highways. Aerial corridors are established for solar-powered airships, delivering goods across hemispheres. Satellites operate in unison, guided by a single authority, providing uninterrupted communication, surveillance, and environmental monitoring. The law, too, is universal. No more extradition battles or diplomatic immunity. No more uneven treaties or conflicting jurisdictions. The Crown Code, a massive legal document ratified by every regional regent, dictates universal justice. Every citizen, whether they live in what was once Paris, Nairobi, Tokyo, or New York, is subject to the same rights and consequences. And it's not just law that's been unified. Currency has become centralized, backed not by gold or GDP, but by collective planetary labor and resources. The Crown Credit, a universal digital currency, removes the friction of exchange rates, inflation, disparities, and financial manipulation. Transactions occur instantly, borderlessly. The black market is suffocated. Economic migration ends. Everyone is paid in the same unit of value, governed by a single, incorruptible algorithm controlled by the Crown's Economic Council. Then there's language. While total linguistic unification proves impossible, Crown protocols standardize global communication. Children everywhere learn a mandatory Crown Common, a synthetic, easily learned global tongue designed to bridge all linguistic gaps. Regional languages are still spoken, but slowly, inevitably, fade into heritage status. Culture is preserved, but no longer central. The Crown doesn't crush identities, it absorbs them, blending them into a singular, planetary identity. This identity is reinforced through ritual and rhythm. Every citizen observes the same global holidays: Crowning Day, Unity Week, the Founding Vigil. Time zones are unified into World Standard Time, obliterating the need for regional clocks. The calendar is adjusted to a 13-month cycle for symmetrical efficiency, with each month bearing the name of a virtue endorsed by the Crown: wisdom, strength, harmony, and so on. Surprisingly, many people thrive under this structure. With no war, crime rates drop. With universal education, illiteracy vanishes. With shared resource planning, hunger, homelessness, and energy scarcity fall dramatically. The elderly are cared for by universal healthcare. Children are raised in Crown-certified schools. Economies no longer crash because there's no other economy to crash into. And yet, whispers of discomfort persist. Freedom of speech exists, technically, but criticism of the Crown is seen as cultural sabotage. Regional traditions survive, but only if they align with Crown values. Religious practices are tolerated, but only under the Crown Harmony Accord, which restricts beliefs deemed divisive. Your identity card, your employment, your ability to travel, all tied to your loyalty score. An algorithmic rating based on behavior, service, and ideological alignment. The system doesn't punish, It optimizes citizens who contribute more get more. Those who question are quietly redirected. It's a world where order has triumphed over chaos, where peace reigns, not through understanding, but through architecture, of law, of infrastructure, of thought. Everything functions, everything flows, but the more perfectly something runs, the harder it is to stop it when it turns in the wrong direction. Beneath the marble halls and polished systems, something darker begins to spread. Control disguised as order, erasure cloaked as unity. What is the hidden cost of this so-called peace? In the next chapter, we uncover the dangerous underbelly of the crown's perfection. On the surface, this unified world appears peaceful, too peaceful. No protests, no riots, no election scandals, no viral videos of political corruption or mass arrests. But look closer, and you'll notice something else just as eerie. No real dissent, no public criticism, no viral art that challenges the system, no subcultures that push back against the narrative. The crown has created stability, but it did so by making uniformity law. Every citizen's behavior is monitored, not by soldiers, but by sensors, cameras, and predictive AI that observes everything from your eye movements to your tone of voice. Disloyal behavior is rarely punished directly. Instead, it's flagged. You start receiving lower quality food packages. You're reassigned to less favorable housing. Your children mysteriously don't qualify for elite education tracks. You're optimized out of influence, and the justification is always the same. Unity above all. Culture doesn't vanish overnight. Instead, it's drained slowly. Ancient rituals are allowed, but only if they are stripped of their meaning. Chinese New Year becomes a crown-sanctioned prosperity festival, detached from its roots. Indigenous ceremonies are rebranded as heritage celebrations, choreographed for broadcast, but disconnected from real practice. Anything with strong national, tribal, or religious identity is sanitized, defanged, and archived. Even history is rewritten. Schoolbooks now begin with the era of division, a shameful chapter where humanity was fragmented by ignorance, war, and nationalism. The world before the monarchy is described as chaotic, primitive, irrational. Great historical figures are either recast as early advocates for unity or omitted entirely. Students are taught that the crown saves civilization from its darkest hour, and with no independent press, no open internet, no alternate narratives, who can argue? Art follows a similar trajectory. No art is banned. Instead, it is guided. Crown-approved art celebrates unity, loyalty, and global identity. Filmmakers must submit scripts to the Ministry of Cultural Alignment. Musicians are incentivized to include approved themes in their lyrics. Museums are curated not by historians, but by political designers ensuring the correct ideological balance. Anything subversive is labeled anachronistic or anti-cohesive, and quietly disappears. Religions, too, are absorbed. Monotheism and polytheism alike are tolerated to a point, but when belief systems challenge the infallibility of the crown or suggest an authority higher than it, they are labeled meta-divisive. Their leaders are relocated, their teachings digitized, then quietly rewritten. A single, universal spiritual doctrine emerges under the name crown ethos, a vague, philosophized belief system focused on unity, peace, and reverence for the monarch. And if you think this can't affect you, consider this. Even your private thoughts are no longer safe, with neurosurveillance technology quietly embedded in your daily tools. Your glasses, your VR headset, your biometric implants. The system tracks your impulses. Thought patterns deemed aggressive, resentful, or non-harmonious trigger psychological interventions. Not prison, not torture, just therapy. You're assigned to a crown recalibration center, where you undergo neural conditioning to help you reconnect with collective values. This isn't Orwell's bootstamping on a human face forever. It's more subtle than that. It's the slow, clinical erasure of individuality, not through violence, but through perfection. Every day is safe, predictable, comfortable but sterile, controlled and cold. There's no war, but there's no resistance either. There's no hunger, but there's no flavor. There's no poverty, but there's no freedom. And the most disturbing part, the longer you live in this system, the less you even remember what freedom looked like. But if the price of unity is obedience, then who truly benefits from this perfect world? In the next section, we look at the emergence of a global elite, those born into power, and those forever locked beneath them. In a world unified by one monarch, everyone is equal, but some are much more equal than others. At the very top sits the crown, hereditary, untouchable, and divine in all but name. Below them, the global aristocracy, a carefully curated network of noble houses that govern Earth's major regions. Each house is responsible for a continent-spanning dominion: Nordica, Equatoria, Sundasia, and so on. These are not elected officials. They are born rulers, tied by blood to the monarch's line, trained from childhood to govern, command, and inherit. They live in walled cities of excess, vertical palaces known as sky halls, floating above the urban sprawls below. Their lives are marked by opulence unimaginable to ordinary citizens. Personalized weather control systems, AI concierges, genetically tailored diets, and even life extension therapies, restricted only to the noble class. But it doesn't stop there. Below the nobility are the merit-bonded, citizens who have proven their loyalty to the crown through generations of unbroken service. They receive privileges such as advanced education, preferential housing, better healthcare, and access to restricted cultural archives. In essence, they are the middle class of this monarchy, functionally elevated, but still beholden to the system. Everyone else, they are base citizens, or as the system politely brands them, essential contributors. They live in standard communal habitats, work in state-assigned labor rotations, and earn crown credits through performance scoring. Technically, everyone has a path to advancement: merit tests, loyalty metrics, creative output, but upward mobility is more a myth than a method. A lottery win here, a special commendation there. But statistically, you're almost certainly staying where you were born, and the trap tightens further. Your status is inherited. If your parents are base citizens, you are, too. If your bloodline serve the nobility directly, you may be granted conditional advancement, but your every move is monitored for deviation. Children are profiled at birth, their genetic potential mapped, their early education tailored not to dreams, but to utility. Romance between classes is frowned upon. Marriages must be status compatible. Offspring from incompatible unions often face cultural quarantine, raised by the state, evaluated and reassigned based on their projected loyalty and usefulness. Love isn't illegal, but it's a variable the system prefers to control. Of course, the official narrative paints a different picture. The crown promotes a philosophy of universal harmony through hierarchy. Just as planets orbit a star and seasons follow a cycle, society must have its layers. To know your place is to serve with peace, reads one of the crown's most quoted proverbs. And most citizens don't even question it, because questioning the hierarchy is framed as selfishness. Wanting more for yourself is seen as disloyalty to the balance of the whole. Propaganda isn't shouted, it's sung through lullabies, embedded in school simulations, reinforced by every digital assistant you interact with. Even your wardrobe reinforces your class. Nobility where fabrics spun from rare materials only cultivated in orbital gardens. Merit-bonded were sleek utility garb, embedded with passive AR. Base citizens were standardized uniforms embedded with tracking and optimization chips. Style isn't a choice, it's a message. Everyone sees where you belong at a glance. And yes, there is resistance, but it rarely survives. Underground groups form, preaching classless society, true equality, or the abolition of inherited privilege. They share forbidden texts, encode subversive messages in artwork, and even attempt infiltration of noble systems, but they are almost always found by drones, by spies, by predictive algorithms that flag ideological drift. Some are re-educated, others disappear entirely, yet beneath the surface, the imbalance festers. Not everyone is satisfied with being ruled by bloodlines and algorithms. Not everyone accepts their place forever, and when that pressure builds too long without release, history has shown what happens next. So what happens when cracks begin to form in the crown's perfect empire? Next, we explore the forces of rebellion, collapse, and the possibility that even the most unified world can fall. No system lasts forever, not even one that rules the world. For decades, the global monarchy maintains a delicate illusion: total peace, perfect order, and eternal harmony. But beneath that polished facade, pressure builds. The cracks aren't always visible. They start in whispers, in looks exchanged during loyalty rituals, in questions asked, just a beat too slowly in classrooms, in glitches in the Crown's behavior scoring system that start tagging high-ranking citizens for thought deviation. Then something happens. A data leak, a smuggled memoir, a viral video of a Crown Guard executing a child accused of symbolic sabotage. It only lasts 10 seconds. But it's enough to shatter the myth of perfection, enough to remind the world that behind every utopia lies a locked door, and that's all the resistance needs. The underground divergence front, long thought extinguished, resurfaces in encrypted networks. They spread the video, then the archives, real history, real art, real freedom. Across the megacities of Earth, hidden cells awaken. In the agricultural domes of old Midwest, in the algae farms of the reconstructed Pacific, in the underground transit tunnels of Pan-Africa, what began as silence becomes friction. What was friction becomes fire. But rebellion in a world like this is unlike anything from the past. This isn't just a matter of seizing palaces or storming capitals. The monarchy is digital, distributed, enmeshed into every power grid, biometric gate, communication system, and water line. To overthrow it is to risk total collapse. Still, people try. First come the cyber revolts, hackers implanting false Crown credit scores, temporarily freeing thousands from class limitations. Then come symbolic revolutions, citizens removing loyalty trackers, reciting forbidden prayers, speaking dead dialects on public broadcasts. Then, coordinated actions. Global strikes from maintenance workers, quantum engineers, and food cycle operators. The system begins to wobble. In response, the Crown doubles down. Curfews, emergency protocols, recalibration centers expanded, surveillance drones deployed in swarms, entire cities put under soft lockdowns. Yet the rebellion adapts. It's not centralized. It spreads like fungus, unpredictable, decentralized, resilient. And then, a devastating blow. A coordinated assault on the orbital data spine, the massive satellite array that houses the Crown's central AI infrastructure. The strike is only partially successful, but enough to scramble Crown systems across half the globe. Suddenly, the system isn't flawless. Doors don't open. Credits vanish. Identification protocols reject nobles. And people, real people, start seeing one another again, without the filtered lens of rank and roll. In a desperate attempt to hold power, the monarch addresses the world, a rare live broadcast. Their face, young, elegant, regal, pleads for calm, unity, and trust. But their voice trembles. And when it does, a new thought slips into the minds of billions. They're afraid. And for many, that's the beginning of the end. Some regions secede. Small city-states declare independence. The Crown calls them anomalies, but the term spreads like wildfire. Anomaly becomes a badge of pride. Artists, thinkers, engineers migrate underground. An anomalous world order begins to take shape, one not built on hierarchy or obedience, but collaboration and fluidity. Others, however, rally harder behind the Crown. These are the loyalists, the core citizens who believe the rebellion is chaos reborn. They see the collapse, not as liberation, but as regression, and they are willing to fight to keep the old world standing. Civil war doesn't look like bombs and bullets. It looks like data poisoning, sabotage of water distribution patterns, ideological fractures that turn families into informants, and all the while, the world drifts closer and closer to the edge of unsustainability. The systems that hold it together, power grids, automated food networks, medbot clusters, begin to fail without continuous, centralized management. Eventually, the unthinkable happens. The monarch disappears. No announcement, no funeral, just gone. Some say it was a coup. Others say the monarch self-terminated to avoid total war. Still others believe the monarch was never a person at all, but an AI simulation rendered obsolete by human awakening. And in the silence that follows, the world must ask itself, what now? With the global monarchy fractured, what have we really learned? Was unity ever possible? Or was the dream itself the true tyranny? In the final section, we step back and ask, would a global monarchy save us or destroy us? In the end, the question isn't just, could the world be ruled by a single monarch? It's should it be? There's no denying the surface-level appeal, the end of wars, unified governance, seamless cooperation, and a humanity no longer divided by nationalism, tribalism, or political ego. For a moment, we imagined the possibilities: megastructures reaching the stars, coordinated environmental salvation, peace spanning every inch of Earth. The idea might be appealing, but the historical reality is that power, once concentrated, inevitably becomes rigid and unyielding. The global monarchy may have brought stability, but it also erased plurality. It demanded sameness in the name of peace, obedience in the name of order. Cultures became folklore, freedom became ritual, thought became monitored behavior, and loyalty became survival. The system worked until people remembered what it meant to be free. So would a unified monarchy save us from our fractured world, or doom us to a new kind of silence? That depends entirely on how much humanity is willing to sacrifice for peace, and whether that sacrifice leaves anything worth living for. Perhaps the scariest part isn't the tyranny, it's how easily we might accept it. Because when the world is burning, and someone offers you a crown wrapped in gold and promises, would you bow? Or would you ask, who gets to wear it next? And maybe that's the true question of our time. Not about kings or crowns, but control. How much unity is too much? And would you even notice if it had already begun? If this scenario got you thinking about power, control, or the very nature of human freedom, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes the world can't change overnight. Because in a reality shaped by choices, even the most far-fetched idea could be tomorrow's truth. And here, we explore what if, before it becomes what is.